Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for today's webinar with NETGEAR. Today's hosts are Jordan Cooper, he's the tech account manager, and Rich Allgood, sales engineer, and they will both be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please submit them in the question box, and both Jordan and Rich are available to answer questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, you two gentlemen, I am so happy to have you with us today. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Julie. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for taking the time to join Microcom's presentation with NETGEAR today. Today we're going to be talking about Wi-Fi 7. And as I was going over and mulling over what would be a great thing to talk about on today's presentation, I got quite a lot of phone calls about Wi-Fi 7, and there's still a lot of unknown about Wi-Fi 7, or really its capabilities, or how to sell it, and what it really entails. And so I thought, hey, you know what? I think I've done a brief presentation on our Wi-Fi 7 access points before, but I felt that it'd be a good time to really go into what Wi-Fi 7 is, how it works, and ultimately how it can make you guys, if you're an MSP and an installer, an integrator, make you more profitable, and why it's a smart decision to include in your business model, and once you're setting up quotes and working with your customers. So we'll go ahead and kick it off right off here. Here's on the agenda we're going to go over. We're going to talk about why customers need Wi-Fi 7. What's the use case there? What are the Wi-Fi 7 advantages over Wi-Fi 6 and previous models? How to sell Wi-Fi 7 solutions. I think that's a big kicker right there too. People often think chalk Wi-Fi 7 up is not needed because of what's available today. But we'll talk about the best way to go about selling the Wi-Fi 7. And then we'll talk about the takeaways about the Wi-Fi 7 at the end. So it's no surprise here that internet speeds are increasing throughout the US and throughout the world. Fiber is rapidly growing everywhere. If you don't have fiber at your house or office right now, it's very likely within the next few years you will. And when these fiber connections do come in, they're starting off at speeds, 1 gig is now becoming even kind of the lower end. It's now getting, starting out at 2.5, 5, and even up to 10 gig internet speed. Fiber speeds are just through the roof in ability to have super fast throughput. And, it's a catch-22, as most of us should know. Having a fast internet does not necessarily equate to fast speed on your device, right? It takes both the LAN and the WAN side to work together to be able to achieve faster and higher throughput of speeds. So the systems must be prepared and ready to be used. The infrastructure must be paved and ready to go to be able to handle that kind of traffic. The need for the speed, not to be trademarked there, but more and more devices are being connected to the internet, and it's very easy to bottleneck now with how many devices are getting connected. If you're a tech company, if you're, like you said, if you're an MSP or you're an installer and integrator, right, you got to find a way to get ahead of your competition. And that's to make sure that there's no bottlenecks, that they won't experience a slow speed. And that's one of the objectives and one of the hurdles that as an MSP, you've got to make sure it's solved. And Wi-Fi 7 does solve that need. The initial 2.4 and 5 bands are getting overcrowded, that's for sure. I was just talking to my engineer Rich here, who we have on the line as well. I was reading an article the other day that says the average home has about 30 to 40 devices in a home that connects to the internet wirelessly, whereas 10 years ago the average was 7. And we think about that and how many devices are connected to the 2.4 and the 5. But what we also don't take into account is interferences that are non-Wi-Fi devices. Things like Bluetooth, radar, ovens, game controllers, headsets. All these things can and do interfere with your Wi-Fi. causing lag, causing disruption, interference. And even if I think most of us maybe have a lot of these at home if you don't have a radar, but if you live near somewhere, I live pretty close to an airport, as does Rich as well, and they have some powerful radar for planes, obviously, and I would imagine that would hamper a lot of the people's Wi-Fi in the area. So with all these interferences too, your Wi-Fi has got to be really strong and being able to handle all these interferences. I'm going to kind of pass it over to Rich here, who can explain this probably a lot better than I about the Wi-Fi 7 advantages, coming more of it on the technical side, and one of the benefits here for the next couple of slides. Rich, you want to talk about the 6 gigahertz band and what that really means?
Sure. Yes. Thanks, Jordan. Again, my name is Rich. I'm one of the sales engineers at NETGEAR. Talking about the differences between the 245 and 6 gig radios in Wi-Fi 7. Wi-Fi 4, I think, was where the 2.4s kind of started, and the amount of channels inside each of those bands obviously increases. And the only way I know how to describe the channelization in Wi-Fi is like having lanes on a freeway, right? Obviously, if you have a freeway that has 8 lanes northbound and 8 lanes southbound, you're gonna have a lot more throughput than you would a freeway that only has two lanes northbound and southbound. And that's kind of where that comes in, right? We talk about a 320 megahertz channelization. That's how wide the band is. And when you're driving down that road on that 6 gig radio, you're going to chew up a certain amount of that, right? And so having more obviously gives you better throughput. You want to go to the next slide on that one?
Of course. Jordan.
Talking about the QAM. This is something a lot of people don't really understand when you start talking about Wi-Fi. I love the visualization here. But the one thing I want to note that talks about throughput versus bandwidth here, okay? Bandwidth is the maximum transfer capacity of the network, where the throughput is the density of the data which it's transferred, okay? So these images here with the little dots on them, little circles, you can see in the 64 QAM, which is Wi-Fi 4, how many, I'm going to call them straws, okay? So you notice that there's a lot of straws there, but in the what appears on the 4K QAM, they appear to be smaller. That's not the case. This is just a comparison to show you quantity, right? So again, talking about lanes on the freeway, the QAM here, the 4K QAM has a lot more throughput because it has a lot more pipes. That's the easiest way I know how to describe that. And and when we talk about 64 QAM and 128 QAM, literally it's how many pipes there are. That's the quickest way. And you'll notice that the megabits, the throughput is listed below, right? And so anywhere from 64s, 300 to 600 megs, where 4K QAM is 5.8 gigabits per second up to 46 gigabits per second. So there's people talk about, I want to wait for the next big thing in Wi-Fi, right? I want to be able to, wait for the new tech, right? This is it. Wi-Fi 7 is absolutely it. Moving from Wi-Fi 6 to Wi-Fi 6E, which added the 6 gig radio, it was faster, sure. A few hundred megs here and there faster. The difference here, going from Wi-Fi 6 to Wi-Fi 7, you're going from possibilities of potential 9.6 gigs of throughput to 46 gigs of throughput. We're talking several times faster. So the next big thing is Wi-Fi 7. And that's the reason that we want to hop on something that's going to be the next big thing. This is it. It's Wi-Fi 7. Okay, awesome. Let me talk about this too, Jordan. Talking about the channelization here. Talking about those freeway lanes that I was mentioning, right? Wi-Fi 4, okay, in the 40 megahertz range, there are seven lanes, okay? And so with Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, that bottom image there on the left where it says interference stops all traffic, and that's obviously because when you connect up, if you're missing one of those lanes of traffic while you're connected, you lose some of your data. Therefore, the data that you receive is invalid, essentially, right? That interference makes your data blocked, essentially. With Wi-Fi 7, there's a feature called Preamble puncturing. It's a method to avoid only the interfering signal within a channel. So what it basically, think of it as lane swerving on the freeway, okay? It's an ability to not block the data that's being blocked on a certain channel, if that makes sense to you. That's why the image on the right shows that there's interference, but it's only interference, but only that little section of it is blocked, where the rest of it's available for use.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what. Go ahead, Jordan.
This Preamble is a big game changer with Wi-Fi 7. It's only available with Wi-Fi 7, and so it is going to be a big game changer when you have all those interferences that we just talked about on the previous slide, with all those interferences on, such as radar and such as controllers and headsets. All those things like that interfere, but only Wi-Fi 7 has the ability to not have that effect nearly as much as Wi-Fi 6 or earlier. So when it comes time to selling Wi-Fi 7, right, we understand as engineers and maybe MSPs and integrators and installers, we understand to a degree of the importance of having a strong network and putting something like that in, and the value that comes with it. But how do we really go and sell the Wi-Fi 7? How do we convince these customers of ours to get on the Wi-Fi 7 train, if you will? One we like to talk about with the explosion of radio communication, right? With almost, here's a stat here, some stats, going to throw some stats at your way. Almost 100 billion of devices that are going to be connected to the internet by 2025. That's in 6 months. Average of 3 to 6 devices per person, right? And honestly, I maybe even say that a little bit more. I mean, you think your average worker is going to probably have a laptop, a cell phone, maybe like an actual desktop computer and a tablet or something like that. So there's a lot of devices that are going to be, each person is going to bring a lot of devices with you. And something that I like to put out there and make sure that these are the questions that you should be asking, right, and thinking about. When you're talking to your customer about Wi-Fi 7, saying, hey, I'm wanting to put in a network that's not just only going to solve today's problems, but I want to last it for at least 5 years. And another beautiful question that I love to ask customers who, when it comes time to putting in, what do they want, right? As you're sitting down in a consultation meeting with them, and as you're discussing their needs and going over where they're projected to be at, and what's going to fit for the right solution for these guys, a question that I think you should ask them is, hey, when would you like to be having this conversation again? When would you like to be in this predicament that you're in right now, that you have a need for a new network? When do you want to be in the same spot again? And the answer is most likely going to be probably, well, I prefer never, but of course that's not going to be the case. You're going to eventually have to revisit this. But the answer that so far that probably is the most common and that they're going to give you is, well, I'd like to not have this conversation for as long as I possibly can. You say, I get it, and I agree that that's a smart thing to do. In order to achieve that, if you don't want to have this conversation for the longest time possible, then we need to invest a little bit more now. We need to get something that's going to be a little bit more suitable. It's like a car, right? If you want a car to last you 300,000 miles, you don't buy the car at 200,000 miles. It's not going to last you as long. If you buy a car, if you pay a little bit more money and you get a car with either little to no miles, that's going to last more the time length that you need it to be, and it's going to last you longer. So it's a simple connection of, if you don't want to have this conversation, you don't want to be in this predicament now, let's invest and let's spend a little more now to save us much more in the future. Wi-Fi means returning customers, right? Here's some surveys too here. Back in 2019, the hospitality technology, as these guys are obviously in the hotel, Airbnb, type of business, where 84% of their guests state that Wi-Fi is the biggest driver in their booking decisions, which is crazy. You think about it's that high up, because another survey by Red Roof Inn showed that 96% of guests expect free Wi-Fi, and almost 70% said slow Wi-Fi are the worst issues in the hotel network. It's not the breakfast or the lack thereof. It's not the beds are uncomfy. It's the Wi-Fi is too slow. And that makes total sense. As young adults now who are coming into adulthood and are coming into the workforce, finishing up school, these young adults have no recollection of what it was like not having the internet and not having fast Wi-Fi speeds. That's all they've ever known. They don't know, what a PDA or Palm Pilot was, or a pager, or heck, even a payphone, right? They're just so accustomed to Wi-Fi and the technology that comes with it. So as these guys go out and get out into the workforce and go out and start businesses and go places where they need and want to use the Wi-Fi, it is the major problem for them, and it totally makes sense. And so when you're
one thing I want to hop in here too, Jordan,
Please.
you look at, like you said, with a lot of these younger, the younger generation that's growing up, they've all grown up with everything handheld, with immediate, access to technology. They've all had a tablet. Even video games now, the new VR headsets are wireless. They're all connected via Wi-Fi. And so everything that they have, they go on a business trip, they take that with them because they can. They've known it. They've never not known it. So yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. I mean, I was just saying the other day, I don't know if you saw the Apple AR could very well be becoming more of a common future, where you wear these headsets and you're sitting in a chair or something like that, and boom, all of a sudden you've got 5 monitors popped up right in front of you and allows you to work. That's got to rely wirelessly, and it be more, having the Wi-Fi speed capable of hitting and being able to achieve the speeds needed to handle that efficiently and effectively is crucial. And so another question that you ask here is the Wi-Fi that you need, this network that you need for your building, whether it be a hospitality or whether it be a manufacturer, whatever company that your potential customer is in, ask them, is your Wi-Fi just an add-on, just a nice little service to have, or just kind of something that's really not needed? Or is Wi-Fi and having good, strong connection to your internet crucial, one of your main things for your business that you need, whether it's guest facing or whether it's for internal use? And 9 out of 10 times, I'm sure you're going to get that. Yeah, Wi-Fi and having a strong internet connection here and having a solid network is crucial to what we do. Name a business that doesn't use networking, that doesn't use Wi-Fi, that doesn't have that. Hard to find and come by. Everybody has it these days, and it's not just a nice add-on feature. We've become heavily reliant on Wi-Fi and on the network and on the internet. And another way to sell, right? Not just, maybe if you're an MSP, we do see a huge growing number of MSPs doing large level or high commercial homes, if you will, right? Talking the hills, California, and very expensive homes now. They have a huge need for Wi-Fi, and there's a space that's growing in the MSP field to start putting in AV networks and putting in strong Wi-Fi for these large-scale homes, and not even just for these big-scale homes, though, but for everywhere. We realize too that home is also work and is also school. Home has become now the central place for where work and school gets done. Back in the day, it used to be, hey, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The home internet was good because not very many people were on it at that time. Everyone was either in school or at work. And then the office was crowded because that's working hours. And then likewise, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., internet was not really great at home because everyone's on the Wi-Fi, not just you, but your neighbors are on it, right? The traffic around all of a sudden gets really congested. The office internet was good because everybody most people were at home and it relieved the traffic there. But now we're seeing a time where both the home and the office are crowded at both times, especially, primarily being a home thing. So if you get people who are like, well, I work from home, or yeah, does my home really need it? Does my home really need Wi-Fi 7? If you're the MSP who's providing and trying to cater to those people who for homes, this is where it's like, yeah, it's just as important to you as it is for somebody in an office building, because of this exact reason. If you have kids or working from home, and the home has become that central place for where work gets done, and making sure that you have, again, fast, reliable connectivity at home, making sure that your work can get done, making sure school can get done, all throughout that needs to have great solid networking and great solid Wi-Fi. Here's a little scalability. This can get a little technical, so I'm not going to dive too much into this whole thing, but your typical structure that you're going to have when you're going to be putting in a network, right? You got your main router, you got maybe some NAS switches that are going to connect to maybe some cameras, maybe to some desktops, maybe to some NAS storages or things like that. But then you're going to have these access points that are going to be providing for the Wi-Fi. Well, these are good for your wired stuff like cameras and NASs and stuff like that. There's far more now that are becoming on the wireless side, right? I mean, phones now, VoIP used to be a thing now, but I feel like I've seen so many phones that are just Wi-Fi phones now are becoming more and more popular. Cell phones, tablets, laptops, computers, even printers. More and more devices are getting to be this way. And I almost would argue now even cameras too, cameras to a certain degree. How many times we see like Blink cameras and Nest cameras and that are in these businesses that are just operating wirelessly. So even cameras now are starting to become not so much hardwired, but wireless, making the demand for Wi-Fi even more important and more crucial when you're talking about security cameras.
If I can hop in here too, Jordan.
Please.
One of the things I want to point out too is when you have a large scale deployment with multiple VLANs, right? And you also have shared resources on the network, things like network attached storages and cameras, right? And printers. Somebody in VLAN 3, the guest Wi-Fi, you don't want them to have access to your network attached storage. And you don't want the sales department to have access to HR's documentation. And there's all this different stuff that goes along. Having that faster throughput gets you there faster and allows you to accomplish things quicker. The other thing that it does is, I know with NETGEARs, with our Insight product, you can even do hotspots, right? So you have a sales guy remotely, right? And if his hotspot isn't performing, right, if it's not up to par with the speed, obviously having the faster internal network at the building, at the office, is going to help play into that LTE connection, right? Because if the internet's slow on either one, you have all of a sudden you have all these things that come into play. If any one of them is slow, you have problems. And so by having the faster internal network using Wi-Fi 7, it improves your network speed and throughput and it increases everything, even backwards compatible down to the 2, 4, and 5. So.
Yeah, no, that's solid. Fast internet means that's what work can get done. Work. Biggest complaint of work, why work can't get done. Well, we have slow internet, or it takes forever to load these or upload these files. It's crucial to have. Upgrading Wi-Fi 7 also here, remember, is more cost effective than spending with rerunning a whole bunch of cables. Like I said, if it maybe instead of having a wireless instead of having a wired camera that's super expensive, maybe you go for a wireless camera instead of a wired, and you invest more on the networking side, being able to utilize and still be able to have that same quality rather than through a wired. Now, here's a couple other things to remember too that NETGEAR offers. Get a free site survey from NETGEAR. This is not something that I don't know of any company that does this. But if you're a customer, let's say you got the customer on board and they're like, hey, yeah, I understand the need for Wi-Fi 7. It's something that I think I want to go through. Can we let's go ahead and put in Wi-Fi 7, right? If you can get a blueprint of the building, you can send it over to NETGEAR and we'll do a site survey for you. We just need a couple of information. Obviously we need the blueprint and it needs to be to scale. So please no bar napkins would be great. And couple points of measurement that helps us kind of get it to scale, and then maybe how tall the ceilings are so we know what it's going to look like coming down. And then last, I think we just need what are the walls made out of, right? We all know brick, stone, metal, concrete, all these things have some major degradation when it comes time to Wi-Fi, and it hampers it quite a lot. So knowing what the walls are made out of will help determine how many access points are going to be needed. Is it an open area, or is the wall just a standard sheetrock wall? Or are we dealing with a concrete wall? That'll affect how many access points are needed. But with a little bit of information there, and just send that over to us, we're able to pop out a heat map that's going to look something like this. It spits out a report that's, gosh, Rich, would you say 30 plus pages long that probably has more information than one would typically ever need, but it goes through all those great things of the noise level and the goal with
it talks a lot about the signal to noise ratio. It talks about throughput. It talks about coverage on each band individually, right? So the 2, 4, the 5, the 6, and it gives you essentially where you need it. It's not perfect. We actually, I'm one of the guys that actually does the heat mapping, and we did one, and we sent somebody on site. It was an MSP, and the MSP had their engineer on site as well, and we had a conversation while we were doing it. I had done the heat map, and I said, well, my report shows that we're negative 67 decibels here. And he's standing there and he goes, oh, I'm standing 10 feet from this wall in this corner right where you're telling me. He goes, and I'm at negative 67 decibels. And it was a real eye opener to me how accurate the stuff that we do is. The software is very expensive. It's very accurate. And again, it's a free service like Jordan had mentioned.
Yeah, so let us take that. Let us take off that work for you. We'll put there, and obviously the goal is to put as much green as possible. But if if the customer goes, this is an area that very few people go, maybe we don't need as much. We're okay if there's a little bit of yellow here. That's your call. But at least you know of what it takes and how many access points, and we'll spit out the build of material, right? The BOM, what you need as far as a router and access points, switches, all that good stuff. And most of the time, it's going to be involved with the benefit with our heat maps is it's going to involve something just exactly like Rich was saying with our Insight program, with our total networking solution here, right? You've got your router, you've got your switch, and then you've got your access points. All of the Wi-Fi access points that NETGEAR has are going to be Insight managed. This is a cloud management. I've talked about it many times. So hopefully if you know of it, or if you've been in one of my webinars before, you've heard it being mentioned, or maybe even seen it. If you haven't, go check it out. Super cool, super awesome, saves a lot of time and money. Very easy to use and very inexpensive. But all of this stuff helps design with the total network and making sure you're providing the best network to your customers as possible. Okay, we're gonna take away here. We're gonna open up to some questions. So one, by 2025 here in the next 6+ months, there's gonna be at least 3 devices per person that are not gonna be wired to the network on average. Again, not wired to the network. Customers are going to prioritize Wi-Fi over any other services. Wi-Fi is going to be the #1 takeaway. If you're providing, or you're going to be an MSP to anybody in the service industry, Wi-Fi is way crucial to you and to their customers. So make sure that's a priority there. ISPs are offering faster speeds now. They're up from 1 gig. Now they're going up to 10 gig. So the IT infrastructure must be able to handle the speeds that are coming in from the ISPs. NETGEAR's wireless access points can accommodate more devices without generating costs, right? You don't have to run wires if you don't want to, saving on cost there. Guys, Wi-Fi 7 is the future-proof technology, right? Again, with that 46 gigabytes of theoretical throughput and reliable features, it's the best option today. As it also is, just like Rich had said, it's going to improve legacy devices. If you get customers who are like, well, none of my devices are Wi-Fi 7. All of our devices are Wi-Fi 5. Maybe they're just getting into Wi-Fi 6. Be like, great. You're going to benefit just as well. To Rich's point, kind of talking about the road, I like to think of Wi-Fi 4 as maybe like a hiking trail. Try taking a car on a hiking trail. It's not going to really do good at all. Wi-Fi 5 is like, okay, now we're on a dirt road. So not bad, but you can only go so fast on a dirt road. And Wi-Fi 6 and 6E are probably like just your standard typical road on the streets. Maybe there's a pothole or so. It does fine, does the job. But Wi-Fi 7 is like having like a Formula F1 racetrack, super smooth, no bumps, everything. And you're telling me whatever you're going to take on there, whether it be a scooter, whether it be a car, whether it be whatever it is, that anything that's going to be riding is going to be a lot smoother and is going to be a lot better performing on that type of road. So Wi-Fi 7 is still going to improve devices, even if it's a non-Wi-Fi 7 device yet. And lastly, with the smart cloud solutions like NETGEAR's Insight, your Wi-Fi 7 system can increase uptime. Is going to make sure it's reliable, it's secure, and it's fast, which is what customers demand and need. All right, Julie, that kind of wraps it up. I'll go ahead and pass it back over to you to open up for some questions.
Thank you so much, Jordan and Rich. Enjoyed that presentation a lot. Lots of great information. And yes, I've got some questions for you guys. The first one, of course, is about Wi-Fi 7. And can you highlight the key features of NETGEAR's Wi-Fi 7 devices?
Rich, you want to chime in?
I'd love to. Let me, yeah. So obviously, like moving from Wi-Fi 5 to 6 to 7, right? The throughput, the hardware is just faster. There are other things that Wi-Fi 7 does as well. There's a feature in Wi-Fi 7 that's similar to LACP link aggregation. If you're familiar with like trunking ports on a switch to make it faster, there's a feature in Wi-Fi 7 that actually trunks together bands, and it makes your Wi-Fi faster there as well. But I would say that the biggest difference is really going to be the throughput with backwards compatibility and the ability to help other legacy devices. People don't realize it, but some of the features that Wi-Fi 7 include too is that there's a battery feature, and I don't want to get too off into the weeds into it, but what it means is that it more efficiently transfers data, therefore using less battery power on your device. So devices like your Wi-Fi 7 on your Samsung or iPhones, right? Latest and greatest technology, actually the battery life ends up being better utilizing it, which you wouldn't necessarily think of that. But there's a lot. I would say that, and the biggest thing is going to be throughput. Obviously, like I said, moving from even Wi-Fi like N to AC, AC to Wi-Fi 6, the difference in speed is about 600 megs to about maybe 3 gigs of throughput between those 3 or 4 generations of Wi-Fi. Moving into Wi-Fi 7, the difference is 3 to 4 times the speed. So again, that's the big takeaway. It is so much faster. What else we have? What other questions we have?
Thank you so much for that. Yes, next question here for you. How does Wi-Fi 7 handle multiple device connections compared to Wi-Fi 6?
Equally as good, if not better. And part of that is going to be the fact that it has a wider channelization. So more channels, again, more throughput. So it's definitely better. It's definitely faster. It's the future. It's the direction that everybody's going to be looking for sure.
Thank you so much. That's very exciting. So yes, as the generations of Wi-Fi grow and grow, we're all very excited about that for sure. Okay, next question, guys. How does NETGEAR plan to educate and support customers transitioning to Wi-Fi 7?
Yeah, that's a solid question. Yeah, I'll take it here. First off, with people like myself and Rich on the line, you know, we have a pre-sale support line that anybody can call to have questions answered as far as what it looks like. So coming from a pre-sale support, we're there to be able to answer any technical questions, providing things like that heat map is a way that we're going to be able to support the people coming to us and with questions and with needs for Wi-Fi 7. And then of course you got your post support. You know, NETGEAR offers free 90 days of tech support. If you want to buy more, it's optional, you don't have to. But I would say if for customers aren't looking for that pre-sale support, people dedicated like myself, someone dedicated like that, like Rich, having that heat mapping availability, just those resources to technical people that again doesn't cost you guys a dime to be able to call that number, doesn't cost a dime to get the heat map or to talk to somebody like Rich to go over all the features and benefits of Wi-Fi 7.
Excellent. Thank you guys very much. Plus, we always like to hear about tech support. So yes, thank you. Okay, a couple more questions. Here we go with the next one. What are the differences between NETGEAR's Wi-Fi 7 routers and mesh systems?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. Right now, technically in the business class, we don't have a Wi-Fi 7 router. We do have a Wi-Fi 7 router in that is our Orbi, and that is in the home product there. Our business class product though is right now the router that we have, that PR60X that we talked about, is not a wireless router. It's a wired router. So that's what you're going to be connecting your switch to, and in essence, you're going to be connecting your access points to in that case. But as the whole ecosystem does work together, and that's probably one of the, I would say, is going to be with us. Ours just works well. We follow EEE standard. We work well. We play well, and putting us in with that total network solutions from the router to the switch to the access point, and being able to manage that all centrally in a central location is going to what makes different with us. You know, whether it be even if you have older Wi-Fi 6 devices, you know, like access points you might have on the network. You could still throw in Wi-Fi 7 and still have that same type of management ability, and they still cooperate and will work together.
And let me address the mesh part of the question. So you kind of have to define mesh, right? So when you talk about mesh, are we talking about like a seamless roaming type feature? Because all of our Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7 Insight managed APs, they all support that seamless roaming, meaning that an example is you're in Cancun and you want to go binge watch your favorite TV show on your iPad, right? So you head down to the pool. Well, you leave your hotel room and you go down 12 flights of stairs and out to the pool. You traversed across, a dozen access points. That seamless feature of your device not knowing a change happened, that's available on all of ours as well. And then the other piece of it, when you start talking about wireless mesh, which is different than like seamless roaming, that's the ability to plug in these access points remotely without having to have a cable to them. All of our Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7 access points also support wireless mesh. So a great way to deploy it, if you have a building that's maybe historical, you can't run the Ethernet cable, you can't do that kind of thing. What I tell people is on every floor, run the Ethernet right there, right by the elevator, or right above the MDF, hardwire one AP on each floor, and then each root device, we call them a root device if they're Ethernet hardwired, can support up to 4 wireless mesh APs on the floor. So you could have up to say 5 APs on every floor and have a true wireless mesh network.
Thank you so much for all of those answers and that education. Let's see, we got another question here. What is the expected lifespan of NETGEAR's Wi-Fi 7 devices?
I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be working here if I could tell you that answer. But the goal, of course, of NETGEAR, I mean, we anticipate Wi-Fi 7 being here for quite some time. I felt like we were on Wi-Fi 5 for a really long time, and we hopped onto Wi-Fi 6, and Wi-Fi 6 was here for what we all probably felt like was just a blip in time, right? A couple of years, and all of a sudden we're on Wi-Fi 7, and that was because as the Wi-Fi 6 band kind of opened up and got introduced, we realized how scalable it was. And so right now, Wi-Fi 7, we anticipate being here for quite some time, and know that NETGEAR, NETGEAR's goal is always to keep things going for as long as the environment, or as long as the network demands for it, if there's an environmental demand for it, if there's a need for it. But generally, we try to make sure all of our products last at least 5 to 7 years before we end of life them. And if they are still strong selling products, they'd be re-released with just maybe some newer software into it. But hopefully, guys, Wi-Fi 7 will be here for a good solid 3-5 years. But again, don't hold a crystal ball.
Thank you so much about that crystal ball reference.
Anybody who has one, let me know.
I know, I certainly will, you guys. Thank you so much for answering all of those questions for us. And thank you to everyone attending today's webinar. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown today, please remember this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so we can all view it again, which I certainly do from time to time. And anyway, you guys, thank you so much for working with me on this this day before our holiday. You guys have a fantastic day, and that goes for everyone online right now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.